What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another very exciting video. Today we are talking about one of my biggest holdings in my portfolio, and that is Alibaba Group. Alibaba has had an absolutely insane week, and we are going to talk about how the stock has gone up almost 23% in just the last 5 trading days. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like down below, and if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. As I mentioned in the intro, Alibaba has made an absolutely insane move over the last 5 days. We can see here today the stock was up 2.7%. Over the last 5 days, it is up almost 23%, which is absolutely crazy. We could see that that's almost a $20 move. Over the last month, it is up almost 22%. And then over the last 6 months, it's actually still down almost $15. We can see that it's down 12.25% from around $122 down to where it's at right now of $107.40. And then if we look over the last year, we could see that the stock has rebounded quite a bit. So it is now only down 17%, which compared to the lows that we saw over the last year, we could see that the stock was down almost 50% at one point last year. So it is absolutely crazy how much the stock has moved up in just a very short amount of time. Hopefully we see this continue, but we can see that in the past, the stock has made huge moves up and then also reversed back down. Again, another huge move up, and then reversed back down. So hopefully we can sustain this. We've reached over the $100 mark, and that's where we've seen some support in the past. We can kind of see in here that $90 to $100 mark, that's where we had a lot of support in this zone. And then the next real range is the 120s. So we can see kind of in here that there was some support in the 120s. So again, I don't specifically believe in technical analysis, but if you do, it's important to kind of note those ranges where there's some support and resistance. And the biggest news that's coming out around Alibaba and really around China in general is that government officials have officially signaled that there is going to be a softening of their regulations around their pandemic policies. So basically, they're going to start easing their zero pandemic policy and start pulling back on that. They have been one of the worst offenders over the longest period of time, where they will shut down entire cities in China just because their pandemic levels are going up in that area. So they have basically taken that method of trying to curb the pandemic. It hasn't been super effective, and really the Chinese population does not love that. There are plenty of people who are living in poverty over in China who, if they are forced to shut down, they don't have a job. How are they going to pay their rent? How are they going to pay for food? How are they going to basically, live a normal life? So it's had a lot of backlash over the last month. We've seen those riots in China, and China has finally decided to start pulling back a lot of those policies. And another huge piece of news is that Ant Group is finally allowed to pursue external funding. So they were blocked back in 2020 from IPOing Ant Group, and basically now Chinese regulators approved a plan that allows billionaire Jack Ma's Ant Group to raise $1.5 billion. So this is absolutely huge, and this is huge for Alibaba because they own around 33% of the company. And with that, again, this is even bigger than just the fact that Alibaba owns part of this company and they can finally start raising money. The big takeaway from this and takeaway from investors is that China has finally started pulling back on a lot of their regulations of big tech. When this first started coming about, right, that Ant announced that they wanted to IPO, China blocked that IPO. They felt like Alibaba and Ant Group was getting too large, that there wasn't enough regulation on the tech industry, so they started fining and regulating and blocking IPOs and doing all this basically to restrict their technology sector. So now that they finally actually allowed Ant Group to IPO and start raising money, that is absolutely huge for tech across China, because it just shows again that China is stepping back. They're taking a different policy approach to these big tech companies, where they aren't going to be suffering and handing out fines to all of them, on a regular basis. We have talked about both of these news items before on this channel, so it's no surprise that we're finally starting to see confirmation about them. We talked a few months ago that China was looking at lifting their zero pandemic policy. The timeline that was given out and rumored at the time was sometime around May. They were looking at basically lifting a lot of those policies and having a high focus on vaccines for the elderly. And the other thing that's been going on in China that we've seen is they have had a huge real estate market crash. So we have seen, something similar similar to what we saw in 2008 in the US happening in China. And what China has done and already, started to take steps to do is lower their interest rates. So we've seen China start dropping their interest rates in a very small way to kind of help stimulate the economy and get money back into the economy. So when we first started seeing a lot of that news, it, became obvious that China was going to start taking a different approach to their policies and really start promoting the economy. We've seen over the last 3 years that China has really restricted their economy, that their GDP growth has been, very low and, has scared off a lot of investors. But now we are starting to see a reverse in that policy. And that's what's absolutely huge. We're starting to see news that this is actually the case, that China officials are actually confirming that this is their plan forward. And hedge funds are obviously reacting in a very positive way. And I say hedge funds because there is no way an individual investor and a group of individual investors are going to get a stock like Alibaba to move in such a massive way in such a short period of time, right? We're seeing that its market cap right now is sitting around $269 billion. So we've seen a 22% move in that over the last, week. So that's absolutely insane, the numbers that we're seeing. So there's got to be institutional investors starting to come into this company. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is that Alibaba is still at an incredibly low forward PE ratio. We can see that it's below 11 or around 11 right now and has been below 15 for the last year. So, very cheap valuation for what you're getting the company at. And we're seeing that kind of continue. And we'll have to see the stock rebound in a very massive way to start getting into what would be a normalized PE ratio of probably around 20 to 25 forward PE. The next big catalyst for Alibaba is actually going to be its earnings. So what we need to start seeing is earnings coming back in potentially a big way. And that would be huge for the stock because we can see right now that the current year, they're sitting around $7.62. Next year, the projection is $8.93. The low estimate is $6.47. I think that is basically out of the realm of possibility as long as, they execute the business at just a normal pace. And then the high estimate is $11.61. And this, I think, is more of a possibility than seeing the low estimate. I think $11 could potentially happen if we see China open in a massive way and we see interest rates drop also in a huge way throughout China. We could start seeing a lot of these tech companies in China, expanding their growth, growing into different industries, and then also money becoming more available throughout China, which will also hit Alibaba's top and bottom line numbers. So overall, I think, it's a lot more likely that Alibaba hits a $10 number than a $7 number next year. And a lot of that will start getting priced into the market, as we move throughout the year. We could see that already current estimates are $8.93 as we saw above. But if we just go 60 days ago, we could see that the estimate at that time was $8.42. So we have seen a 50-cent raise just over the last 2 months in Alibaba's projected earnings per share. And as the year goes on, we could start seeing Alibaba start raising its guidance if we see the economy in China really recover in a massive way. And as that starts to happen and as the price starts to rise, we could see analysts start raising their price targets. And that always gets a lot of institutional investors interested in a company. When you start seeing analysts come out and basically project that a stock is going to go up by 25, 50, 75%, then you could start seeing huge moves throughout that company. So overall, these are all just my opinions. So do your own research. Make sure you are looking into these companies before you buy them. Obviously, Alibaba has moved up in a very massive way. I do own a large portion of my portfolio is Alibaba. So keep that in mind when you're watching this video and when you're thinking about what I have said throughout this video, that I do have, an underlying bias for the company. So again, do your own research. Make sure you're looking into your own companies before you buy them. But overall, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you hit that sub button. And as always, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day.